Hello, hello, name's Annan, welcome back to the channel, thank you very much for tuning in. I got quite the headache today, so excuse me not talking so emotionally loaded as I usually would, I suppose. So, today's build remains unplayed. This is my premiere, my debut run on this build. I don't think it's gonna be particularly complicated, it's nothing particularly fancy or extraordinary, it's just one of those special runs, starting with 2 relics, or rather 1 regular starter relic and 1 run modifier. Now again, today's modifier is not going to be anything super special, wildly game-changing to me, as an advanced player of this game. To you, if you are new to this game, this item would probably get you killed incredibly quickly, but we shall see whether or not I can manage to bring a win home, or even survive for that matter. So, let's get right into it. Today's build is called... What's that smell? Which is a reference to our second starter relic, as well as a variety of abilities that we're going to be using, which are all somersault or tumbling related, or if you're a normal person and you don't get what any of those things mean, they are sports related, specifically gymnastics related. So we are one stinky little stinker doing sports, and yeah, that's it. I really couldn't come up with a better name for this, so let's get right into the build, shall we? Starting with our rope, we're going to be running the shift rope, which is a pick I rarely ever will put up with. Let's put it that way. I personally strongly dislike this rope, and I'm a little disgruntled that I pretty much have to use it for today. This increases our evade chance by 10%. Evasion, of course, meaning that when this chance procs on one hit, on the one hit that it procs on, of potentially a many hit ability that is hitting me, or many different hits, that one particular hit is evaded, meaning I won't be taking any damage, I won't be stun locked, there are no repercussions for being hit whatsoever. However, stacking this up, evasion, generally speaking, is not very easy. There's only a handful of items, and if you want maximum evasion, you'd have to run a wind-only build with an appropriate starter relic and many other prepositions, which we're not going to be doing. We're not going to be able to do any of that. We're not even going to be able to find the Neve's Citrine? Is it called the Citrine? No, it's the quads. It's Neve's quads, I believe it's called, which is the wind gem. So that grants you a huge ton of evasion. Not even like 80%, 90% extra. No, it's like 30, 40% rather of extra evasion granted. But only if you fulfill its condition of having 7 Wind Arcana, carrying around with you 7 Wind Arcana rather. You don't have to use all of them. You just have to have 7 Arcana. So fill each and every single Arcana slot with a Wind Arcana. And you can't even find that in a regular run. You have to pick it as a starter relic. So, a little bit led astray here, but evasion is not a particularly powerful mechanic, as it is quite rare that you can ever stack this up, that you ever find items that synergize with it. There's only a handful of items totally that relate to evasion. So we're not going to focus on that too much. However, evasion is essentially a form of armor. Sort of, not really. It's like gambling. It's armor for gamblers. Are you really willing to gamble on that hit? If you're already on low HP, if you're running through a boss attack and you don't care about being chain CC'd to death, are you really gambling to proc evasion on each and every single one of those hits? It's incredibly unlikely. It might happen. It's incredibly unlikely though. We just need a little bit of evasion to entirely negate damage taken. Armor is not gonna do the job today because we are gonna be taking a lot of damage on every single hit that we take, regardless of what attack is hitting us. So I would much prefer having a little bit of evasion over armor, which just make us take the damage guaranteed, but just slightly mitigated. It also increases our critical hit chance by 5%. That is so negligible, you can pretty much ignore it entirely, but for the purpose of this build, the 5% is actually more so 15% because of our starter relic. So it's not entirely worthless, but you can forget about it quite quickly. Let's put it that way. Yeah, you really want to upgrade the shift rope for today's run, though. That's the reason we are running it in the first place. We want more evasion. Maximum evasion granted, and this is the only rope that really grants you more than 5% evasion. So you have to take what you gotta work with, right? Get the upgrade immediately. Period. Nothing more to say about this one. I'm really disgruntled I have to run it. For our starting relic, our first starter relic, we're gonna be running an offensive item, and a tool that I have used plenty of times on various different occasions. I love coming back to this over and over again. You can see it down there already. It's the offensive dark Katana. Incredibly strong item, which triples the critical hit chance for all melee Arcana, and this is a purely melee focused build. So this does synergize with the Robe, which again, why do I have to run it? And it synergizes with the rest of the build. Therefore, very strong, grants you a lot of extra damage, pretty much makes you crit on every single attack, regardless of however often you might connect with your enemy. Usually if an attack hits 3, 4, 5, or even more than that times, you can expect at least one critical hit from it. It's nothing fancy, it's just very, very good, and it stacks up very nicely with base damage increases, as crit chance only makes you deal more base damage. So the more base damage you have, the more impactful crit chance is. And eliminating crit chance, which of those two stats is much more difficult to come by, much harder to find. You would have to find specifically this relic for maximum achievable crit chance on this build, so might as well start out on it immediately instead of picking some random base damage increase item that is very, very easy to come by in direct comparison. There are so many base damage increasements. For example, half of the cursed item pool, pretty much, right? I'm just estimating here, but roughly half of it is a base damage increase, whether it be by cooldown reduction or literally just increasing your base damage by a percentage. So, Dark Katana is going to be a starter relic. Alternatively, I would strongly suggest you don't swap it here, but if you want to go for something strongly damage related so you are able to slam your fists into the enemies and just destroy them early on, and then snowball out of control during the end game or during the mid section of your run. Let's move on to the Arcana though, shall we? We are split into two elements here today. Two rather weird elements. Two elements that I don't typically tend to combine. It's my favorite element, Earth, and my least favorite element of them all. Of all elements, including the elements that don't even exist in this game. It's wind. I hate wind. I don't get why this is supposed to be an element. I think it's incredibly low power and unimpressive and generally boring, but that's beside the point. I am very disgruntled that the avatar is supposed to be an airbender too. My god, why? Why? That's so boring. Ice, like steel, or lightning are so much cooler. Or like even just the base element like fire, water, earth. Everything is cooler than wind. Wind is so freaking boring, but yeah, it may be the least destructive of our elements. Granted. Still, I am dissuading from the point here currently. Let's start with our basic, shall we? Our basic is going to be the Earthen Bladed Vine. A melee, very long range, very flexible basic that I tend to use a lot whenever I really don't want to play another basic. I love this ability. It is my absolute favorite basic Arcana in the game, or has become. My absolute favorite basic Arcana that isn't entirely broken, I might add, if you exclude things like Chaos Crusher or the Dark Chaotic Scythe. This is easily my favorite in the game, and I do use it frequently for builds that require a basic that is actually functional and doesn't just shoot a bouncing blaze every now and then, like every 30 ability uses. I just fire one basic just for that tiny bit of extra damage. No, this is a basic that is actually meant to be used as a basic, as a main damage tool, as a main signature charge generator, and most importantly, as a crowd control tool. I absolutely love this ability. I firmly believe it's incredibly strong, and here is why. It is a melee ability, so it is easily enhanceable with items like the Dark Katana. Also, since it's a basic Arcana, easily enhanceable with gloves, like evening gloves, easily enhanceable with anything that requires you to be in melee range, like stones, like fairies, sprites, pixies, whatever you want to call them, like candies. I love candies so much. There are just entire item pools dedicated to bettering basic Arcana, especially melee basic Arcana, and so it is very easy to come by items that make this even stronger. Now this is a typical 3-hit melee Arcana, where the last strike has massively extended range. All hits pierce all enemies, but it doesn't push them away too far. It doesn't push them out of the attack. It keeps them kind of stun locked inside of the attack, though it has a great knockback value attributed to it too. So you can easily shove large groups of enemies into pits, shove them around, control them, just keep them in your range to burst them down, like so. So, hit. Regular hit deals 7, 10 on a crit apparently, and then I can hold for all 3, the third of which deals double the damage, roughly, at 15 base damage, seemingly 22 here on a crit. Yes, very, very good damage, combines incredibly nicely with the Dark Katana, and then the fact that it's piercing and that it has such a great range and versatility. It works in any given situation, whether it be for signature charge generation, crowd control, large group burst damage. It's essentially an AoE line ability, right? That is really wide too and easily controllable, and you don't really have to aim it. And it even works for boss damage decently well, I find. I don't think it's amazing or anything. I don't think any basics are amazing, then again, for boss killing potential. But this one, I love it. It is definitely Anon approved. Absolutely great. Now, one little caveat to it. In fact, it's not that little, after all, if you've played with this for a while. Or rather, I should say, if you've never played with this before. When you enhance it, the final hit here, the extended double damage hit, strikes 3 separate times immediately after one another, which entirely changes up the rhythm that you would usually use to stun lock enemies. So, in case you've never played this game, you don't have a lot of experience using basic Arcana, every Arcana has a certain rhythm to it with that you can permanently stun lock enemies. If you just blindly hold this every time, you give enemies a lot of downtime to attack you, because there's a delay between your basic Arcana uses, or rather, any Arcana uses. So what you want to do with the basic, instead of just expanding it all entirely, all of its charges or all of its potential, you tap lightly, like so, fast enough, in exactly the kind of rhythm that would keep enemies stun locked and unable to attack. You always cancel the attack that they charge up mid-animation, as they do with you when they strike you. So you can't just hold it, you have to tap it manually. Some Arcana are very good at this. This one is decent at this. It doesn't have the greatest range because you're missing out on that final hit, and it doesn't have the greatest damage either, but it's quite good. So what changes here? Well, you don't use it so much for the single tapping. You actually use it at a large distance to crowd control large groups of enemies that are usually barely inside of your range with the final strike. You're also trying to connect the first two. But once you enhance it and the final strike hits 3 times, I feel like the delay in between uses of this basic Arcana is a lot larger. I feel like the knockback gets a lot larger. I feel like the damage doesn't significantly improve, it marginally improves, merely. I'm not a big fan of the enhancement. It is extra damage on paper, but in practice, when actually playing with this a lot and being used to a certain rhythm, that completely shuffles things up, and not in your favor by any means. It tips the scales very heavily against your favor. So, not a big fan of that. You can get it if you have the spare money. If you want to go for more of a basic Arcana focus with your build, you can do so. There are plenty of versions of plenty different versions of this build for obvious reasons. You start out with a high crit chance and a very strong basic Arcana. You can go for a purely basic Arcana theme build. I don't think I'm going to be doing that. I'm not a big fan of that at all. It's my least favorite way of playing the game, so I strongly doubt we're going to be doing that. But if you want to do that, if that's your cup of tea, go ahead, feel free. Also upgrade it if you feel comfortable with it. Otherwise, I would recommend stay away from the upgrade as long as you can. Procrastinate, and then once you have enough gold and you really don't have anything better to spend it on, it will still make for a great damage increase into bosses. Though into regular enemies, I feel like it just changes things up too much. It kind of shuffles around this bag of muscle memory, right? Maybe that's just me though. I don't know. So let's move on to the next, the dash. It's gonna be Entangling Vines. My favorite dash in the entirety of the game, by a landslide. I love this thing, it's fantastic. It's an earthen dash that got reworked a while back. I even loved the old version. It used to be my favorite too. It was awful. So you used to dash forth, and in a cone in front of a character, it would leave a bunch of vines dealing damage, I believe rooting enemies. Very low damage, very tiny range, very bad enhancement. But nowadays, it's just a lot better. So you drag a bunch of enemies with you into the direction that you're dashing into. Granted, they have to be in a sort of phantom range of your character, so there is a certain range to this Arcana. I can't just do it over here. It's not going to hit anyone. You see those vines coming out of my back there. The phantom range, I call it phantom range because it's invisible. You have to train it by just playing with this a lot. It's muscle memory. That's exactly what I was referring to with the basic Arcana. Entirely applies to this dash, more so even than to the basic Arcana. You can clearly see the range on the basic Arcana. It's always the same, the exact same in fact. On Entangling Vines, not so much. You can't see it at all. You can't really tell it apart. You have to develop a good feeling for this. So right about here should be where this range ends. See, I couldn't even pull this one. So you pull a bunch of enemies towards you. And then you can follow that up with a quick combo. If you don't have a build that can do that, don't you worry, just pull them towards you, dealing great damage and then walking away from them. If you have a build that is incredibly sluggish, I recommend not using this at all, because you pull enemies towards you who can then proceed attacking you all together. They all come at you, regardless of how many enemies you just pulled. This doesn't have a limit. I can pull 20 enemies at any given time. It's unlikely that I won't be killing any of them. If there's a bunch of rogues in there, it's likely that I will literally kill myself doing that by allowing for them to constantly, one after another, stunlock me permanently without any way of counterplay. So this does require a lot of skill and muscle memory to use on a base level, in my opinion. If you're exactly very new to the game, I recommend not using this, even though I absolutely love it, and I think this is the greatest dash in the game by a landslide. So what's so great about it? The damage is fantastic. It has a huge range around your character. It's a circle around your character, a huge AoE. I can pull as much as I want to, unlike a bubble blast, for example, which leaves behind a bunch of bubbles, each of which detonate on contact with a single enemy. So the number of damage dealt there is very limited, and that counts for pretty much all the dashes in the game, except this one. It also has charges, like most of the dashes, so you can increase its charges and just have it be that much more fun. You can increase it to 99 if you want to, or just by a marginal number, 2, 3, whatever. It's great, I love it. Also, you can pull enemies into pits, so you jump across a pit, this will pull enemies with you, and all the enemies fall into the pit because they can't fly. They're not pulled across the pit. They just fall in there immediately. It's awesome. It's like a tearing whirlwind on a dash. Fantastic. And then once you enhance it, let alone the already fantastic base damage and base utility this grants you, and combo potential, of course, that is easily my favorite. Pulled enemies are now poisoned and rooted. Rooted and poisoned in place. Rooting, assuring that they won't move an inch, that you can burst them down, and that the poison is actually gonna deal a hefty chunk of damage to them, because poison is just such a slow damage over time effect in this game that it takes forever. It takes like 5, 6, 7 seconds to tick down entirely. It feels like an eternity, and Root helps a lot with that, at least guaranteeing like 2 ticks of poison. But generally, this is not a very good enhancement if you use this as a pull enemies into cliffs type of tool, because if you try to pull enemies into pits, here's what's gonna happen. They're gonna be rooted in place, and rooted means they can't be moved. Neither by themselves, nor by any external means, whether it be you or another player, or like a wind effect or some kind of trap, for example. No, nothing can move them, or at least they can be barely moved. Barely, only so much that you wouldn't really be able to tell they have just been moved. So the upgrade, it's a little, it's not a huge damage up, especially into bosses you can't poison sura. So this is worthless into sura in my opinion. It's a very good upgrade nonetheless. Very applicable. It just entirely changes the way that I personally use it. I use it as a tearing whirlwind to be fast, to be furious, to combo enemies, to stack them up, to just do whatever I want. Really, can do absolutely any and everything I want it to be. But as soon as I enhance it, I limit myself there. And I love versatility, so I usually don't enhance it unless I don't have any other way to increase my damage dealt, or I have just too much gold and nothing better to buy. Again, same rule as with the Bladed Vine, even though this one is much more important that you don't upgrade it right away, in my opinion, because it doesn't directly increase your damage or improve your build capacities, improve whatever your build is good at. Even if it's a full root poison build, this is not a super strong upgrade, as it doesn't deal any damage, doesn't improve the ability. It just slaps on 2 status effects, right? And a lot of enemies are immune to those, especially the Earth Dungeon, especially Sura. So, least of your concerns right here. Bladed Vine is a much better upgrade, as this directly influences how much damage this ability deals every single time you fully cast it. But let's move on with something a little less well known on this channel. It's our standard. It's gonna be Rushing Typhoon, the first of 2 Tumbling Wind gymnastics abilities, as I so lovely called them. So, this is a dash forth, which leaves behind a... Well, it doesn't leave behind exactly. I dash forth into enemies, and then right in front of my character, wherever I end the dash, there's gonna be a tumbling wind, drawing enemies in and dealing a very minute amount of damage, as with pretty much all wind abilities in the game. Let me just reset these real quickly. Just do this. So you can tell that this is not a tearing whirlwind by any means. It doesn't have a huge range. It has a very tight range. You have to hit enemies pretty much perfectly to draw all of them in. If you miss a single one, like a Lancer, and they attack you, they cancel your ability, which is terrible. You can't let that happen. So if you can't connect this 100% of the time, you have to cancel out of it. You have to dash out of it, abort the ability entirely, and you lose all your damage potential immediately. So you have to be absolutely perfect with this. If I hit it like so, for example, there are 2 enemies that you can see that this wouldn't hit. It is fast enough sometimes that you can get away with this. It has a huge knockback too, so I can use this to just move around and dodge an ability like so, or to push enemies around into pits, for example, or climb them up more easily. I can also combo this into my dash, though the distance that I push enemies back with this ability for is just enough so I can't just Entangling Vines them immediately, like so. I have to walk forward just a little more, which takes a bunch of time, giving the enemies that I left untouched plenty of time to follow that up with some attacks, cancelling me out or getting me stunlined and killed, ultimately. This is an ability I'm using for mobility for the most part, but also as a combo piece. This is more of a combo build today because I was just feeling a bit of good old combo, just having some fun. Now, the knockback on this is quite nutty, and it is a bit of an anti-synergy with a bunch of abilities. As I just said, it knocks enemies just too far away to use a melee ability. Usually, I can combo this into just a basic, but that's pretty much it, and even then, it doesn't always have a guarantee to connect. So what you want to do is use it, walk forth, and then do whatever you want to follow this up with, or just use it to kick enemies away from you and then walk the other way, never looking back. When enhancing this, it increases the tumbling duration, so essentially that just means slightly more damage dealt, and it's slightly more captivating to enemies, quite literally. Nothing wild, a decent upgrade, the first decent upgrade that I would actually consider getting here. just for floor clear, but maybe also a tiny bit for extra boss damage. This does count as a melee ability. That's why it's critting so often, because it is affected by the Dark Katana. The damage is very lackluster, as with most wind abilities. I should stop complaining and just move on. I really am trying to hammer home the point that I just so strongly dislike the wind element, especially the execution in this game, but throughout the board, anywhere I've ever seen it, including in Avatar: The Last Airbender, or the first Airbender, The Last Airbender, and in Korra and all other series regarding cool elemental shenanigans and casters and wizards. Wind is always the asshole. It's always boring as shit, I'm sorry. And in this game, it's no difference. This is underpowered crap that deals very low damage, has very low utility. It looks cool sometimes, but not as cool as fire, for example. So moving on to the signature, which also is of the wind element, unfortunately, but I just feel like it fits and I've never really used it before. So let's go for the second tumbling wind, being Spiraling Typhoon, our sweet, sweet signature. Also a Typhoon. I could have alluded to Typhoons too, but I prefer the tumbling winds. It sounds a little more interesting, a little more fun to me than Typhoon. So powerful, powerful wind. Spiraling Typhoon essentially does the same thing as our dash, but right in front of our character, and it's a charged ability. Looks like so. Okay, and then after this expires, it pushes enemies away a fairly large distance. You can see a common theme here. That's how they work. Very low damage, but huge knockback. Rather low utility, just kind of keeps enemies imprisoned. But you have to hit both of these perfectly. It's really hard. So the group would have to look something like this for this to even remotely do anything without me having to cancel it immediately. So, this combines nicely, or rather these, both combine nicely with Entangling Vines. Do something like this, and then follow it up like so, and then basic them down. It doesn't deal a lot of damage. This is not a combo build that deals a huge chunk of damage. In fact, all the abilities together just dealt about the damage that a single use of a moderately strong signature Arcana would have dealt, like an Explosive Fireball, for example. So, yeah, not a huge fan on that, but you will see soon why I am running this instead of something that would arguably be a lot more fun to me and probably everyone else participating in this shitfest. So, Spiraling Typhoon. It is charged, and when enhanced, aka our signature, increases the tumble duration, and Final Blow knocks foes further away. Wow, how absolutely useless. And when using the signature, it does the thing as an AoE, but it's so wonky. Look at that. I can retarget it, like so, and then have them go ring around the rosy. It's really not that powerful, even when used as a signature, though that deals significantly more damage than the base version. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, roughly 200. That is not awful. Like, it's not great by any means, not even good, but it's... I'd say it's average, or good enough to be used in a build of mine. Oh boy, what a rough one. But now, for the fun part. Let's look at our second starter relic, shall we? We just gotta find it. You know, this can take forever. On a good day, it's the first, second, third try. On a bad day, could be 20 plus. So let's try and look for that smelly boy. That stinky, stanky piece of glass. You probably already know what I'm talking about. But then again, maybe not. I don't think it is a very popular item. It's kind of a minor run changer. To me, anyway. Again, this might be a huge issue to you as a new player. But to me, as someone who's played a fair bit, this is not too large of a run changer. It does definitely allow for builds like these, like the one that I'm currently running, to flourish. There it is. The Abhorrent Cologne. Enemies have less health, 25% less health to be exact, but enemy damage is increased by 50%. How is that proportional? But anyway, 50% more damage taken. That is huge. That's the reason we're running so much evasion with the shift rope right away, and are hoping to combo off enemies to keep them stunned and to never be hit. Period. Obviously, we are daydreaming here. This is a meaty build, and as soon as you run it into certain situations with a lot of projectiles around and traps and certain elements and set of effects, a melee build, even the strongest of them, starts to crack up, at least partially. So we will take damage eventually. It's just a matter of time, of when, where, and how much, most importantly, and how much can we mitigate. We're going to try and mitigate all of it and just kill enemies with these rather underwhelming abilities. Now the damage dealt should be a little more valuable now that we know that enemies are gonna be having a fourth less HP overall, even when scaling. This isn't a crazy good item by any means. It's a very minor modifier, and it is a huge punishment to the player running it. So I can definitely see why people would not want to run this at all. I am probably never going to run this after ever again either. It is definitely one of my least favorites. That is definitely a reason for me to play it early on. I don't think it's particularly exciting. I think it's just meh, and on top of all that, has a massive, unignorable downside. So with that having been presented, let's move on to the build specifics, shall we? Because we always gotta do this. I am sorry, this is just part of the build presentation, regardless of the kind of build. So today, let's get into the build specifics with the intended build playstyle. This is a combo heavy build. You want to be defensive until you can find that one moment to become a ninja and strike and group everyone up and just push them all together into a pit, or combo them to death with your basic and your abilities. Just use your advantages. You don't have many. You have the knowledge that enemies are a lot weaker than they otherwise would be, and you have great mobility and great crowd control tools. Even though they don't last very long, they don't particularly rely on status effects. They don't rely on high damage. They just rely on knowledge. So as soon as you start struggling with a certain kind of enemy, like a rogue, for example, on Elemental Knight or something like that, focus on them a lot more, because you really don't have any room to make mistakes here. Be as defensive as you humanly can be. Focus on eradicating your own mistakes, particularly in the field of dodging first, and then on offense, grouping up enemies the most efficient way possible to then just dispose of them altogether. That's what we want to do. It's a passive-aggressive playstyle, but much more so leaning on the defensive side in my book. It's more running around, waiting for an opportunity, seeking an opportunity, spotting it, and then abusing the fuck out of it. Riding that horse until it's dead, and then you keep beating it, and you keep beating it, and so on and so forth. The metaphor is dead too. So let's move on with the potential problems instead. Damage. Damage is an issue. You want more base damage. Slightly more base damage to make these abhorrent abilities, pardon the pun, a lot more durable, a lot more less insufferable, just a lot more fun and consistent, more importantly, overall. That's what you really want. Consistency is what you wish to achieve with a combo build. You don't need a huge damage spike, just something like cooldown reduction, slightly more base damage, a little bit of defense here and there, a little bit of utility like healing here and there. Should lead to a great deal of consistency, just being able to flourish in any given situation, regardless of what you are confronted with. Whether it be a low HP count, a very difficult boss fight, very difficult dungeon, difficult rooms that leave you on a low HP count, whatever it may be. Maybe it's just a situation that is tough to control for your build. Maybe enemies are widely spread around the area and you have a tough time controlling all of them or grouping them up. Having a bunch of utility items helps you a lot in order to achieve your goals long term, and that's what we are going to strive to do. So trying to resolve that problem. Also, another problem here, we don't work too much with status effects here at all. In fact, we only have poison from the Entangling Vines upgrade, as far as I know. So we don't care much about dungeon disadvantages, not a lot anyway, but particularly the Wind Dungeon should be especially difficult with this one, since we run Wind and Earth Arcana, so both of them are weak in the Wind Dungeon to everything, including the boss. The boss itself is very evasive, very annoying. I hate Shu. Evasive enemies generally are very hard to deal with. You barely hit at all. You usually have single hit abilities whose hits matter a lot. Like Entangling Vines, you cannot possibly miss that. You can't risk missing it from an evasive enemy. You have to proc the evasion in order to just punch through to them, to get to them, and to eradicate them all together. You can't possibly deal with different enemies being split up and approaching it from different sides, like back and front, for example. That just doesn't work. You have to group them up, and if you can't, you have to back off until you can group them up. There's just no other way. You don't deal nearly enough damage to isolate enemies and then kill them one by one. Meanwhile, all the other ones are slowly walking towards you. No, that doesn't work. So evasion is a great pain in the ass with this build. I hate it. So please, be so kind and avoid the wind engine altogether if you somehow can. Otherwise, I would strongly recommend you pick it up as either your first or your second dungeon. Of course, you can pick it as your second dungeon naturally in this game. So we're gonna try and run this as our first dungeon. I hate wind. I really hate wind. Whether it be playing against it or playing it by myself or just theory crafting about wind, I hate everything about it. So let's swiftly move on to my favorite section here. Recommended items and Arcana. Cooldown reduction, I value a lot with combo builds generally. I feel like this is a build that can definitely profit from cooldown reduction a lot. I love the cooldown reduction, especially on my dash Entangling Vines, so I can just climb enemies up more often, and on my standard, so I can dash around more, potentially dodge more, and just be a lot more nimble and flexible in what I do and when I do so. Additionally, I'd recommend picking up items that generally just increase base damage by a large margin, something like a luxury handbag, even though that's kind of difficult to stack. As we already said, most of these enhancements today are really not that powerful, or merely make a tiny difference, like your basic Arcana upgrade, for example, or Entangling Vines upgrade. We definitely do not prioritize those earlier game. We just try to find huge game-changing, potentially game-winning items. We also like signature charge on the topic of increasing our base damage. It doesn't necessarily have to be a luxury handbag or double trouble. In fact, I would strongly recommend stay off of double trouble just because I personally don't feel comfortable taking 50% increased damage right away. I feel like that's a huge chunk, and if you were to take double trouble, you'd probably die in 2 or 3 hits. I strongly recommend not doing that until you are very comfortable with this level of damage intake. Instead, just pick safe damage increases with a negligible or very minor downside. Something like a Magician's Wand means it's an instant run ender, because in a combo build you have to be nimble, fast, use abilities quickly after one another to pull off combinations, to pull off evasive plays, but also offensive plays, to stay alive. The mere process of staying alive requires for you to quickly be able to use different abilities one after another, and an item like Magician's Wand entirely eradicates that ability. Also, an item like Silver Spinning Top or the Cursed Anchor slow you down significantly in your movement speed while increasing your damage, but the damage increase is never worth it for a low damage build. So you want damage increases, this handful, very few select, very strong in any given situation damage increases that exist in the game, like a luxury handbag, if that actually works for your given situation. You don't want to use that, for example, if 3 of your abilities are unenhanced, or even 2, even 1 sometimes. You need to find the right items to run on this build. So I strongly recommend pick whatever you can, but you definitely want a little bit of cooldown reduction and as much signature charge as you can gain, because your signature actually deals okay damage, and with a bit of help from extra crit chance or extra base damage increase, I can actually see it dealing fairly decent damage to bosses. I am definitely hoping we will find Atlas here to make our run just that much easier, and preferably the Thunder Twins as well, because neither are they a hard boss, nor is the dungeon hard, but also we are strong against them with at least 2 of our abilities. Minor abilities, yes, but that's still quite helpful. So we're definitely going to be running Shu, and then hopefully Atlas and the Thunder Twins to make our lives just a little easier. Today's challenge is actually a challenge. It's not just a regular run, because I know I said that this barely makes a difference to me, but I am getting more and more scared by the second here as reality is facing me. In terms of Arcana, I believe Arcana are much more important than items for this one. I believe base damage increases are not nearly as strong as just getting a very high base damage Arcana. Because, here's the reasoning. Arcana are much more versatile, much stronger. It's not just damage. If I increase my base damage by, say, 20%, and I keep using these abilities, these are all clunky to use. Not that easy to pull off melee abilities. These are weak in an ice dungeon, for example, where I can just be frozen to death, where melee abilities generally tend to be a lot weaker. These are weak against the poison stairs effect, where I can be rooted and just stun locked and stairs affected to death. Whereas if I draw an ability such as a Bolt Climber, regardless of whether I have increased its base damage or not, this does not force me to use these clunky abilities in that situation. But it also increases my damage, similarly to a raw base damage increase. It's just a lot more versatile in how I use it. It allows for me to flourish in different situations that otherwise I wouldn't be able to. And it's just very good. So we want stuff like Bolt Climber, Explosive Fireball, the usual long-range, high-damage abilities. Raging Inferno is another one I barely ever mentioned. Glacial Spear is another one. The Knockout Boulder as well. These are all fantastic. Mostly single-target hit, but they do have the potential to hit a whole slew of enemies, a massive group, up to anyway. And then additionally, evasive abilities like jumps that grant you iframes, meaning that you can't be hit while casting the ability, especially the Airborne Slam. The wind signature jump, that is easily my favorite. Or if you're looping, try and aim for chaos abilities, because those are typically very high damage and possess projectile destruction capabilities that regular abilities don't necessarily possess. But for the regular player here, go for abilities that are incredibly strong. Incredibly strong regardless of the situation. Something like a Permafrost Ball, that's another great example. Especially in a combo build, you freeze yourself, you cryo freeze, unable to be taking any damage for a short period of time. You determine how long that period of time is. You can abort it at any given point and dash free from it. It also deals a huge chunk of damage back. So abilities like these, fantastic. Really want to see them. Really want to pick them up. Even just passive damaging abilities with a rather long range like Summons or Seekers, I think would be tolerable with this build. Not great, not an instant pickup. But it definitely would warrant at least to be taken into consideration. So with all of that atrocious, annoying information and talking out of the way, I'd say let's get right into the run, shall we? So let's grab our money here and then try and dodge the Shu bullet. Courtyards. Gotta make sure to not accidentally click too fast here again, like the last time. I'm just not used to doing this a lot. Alright. Sky Palace. Cool. Let's go for it. As per usual, let me take a sip, as I believe this run is gonna be quite a short finish. I'm not sure I'm even gonna be able to win this one. I'm just gonna try and do my best, have a good time with this build that I'm not a huge fan of. For the record, combo builds are a lot better when they are not in wind. But it just so happens that wind is a very fast and combo heavy color, so you can't really get around it in this game. There are not that many combo worthy abilities in other colors. I say colors, of course, I mean elements. I've played a lot of Magic the Gathering lately. Oh my god, you guys! That was a chunk. Okay, this might be a lot harder than I evaluated it to potentially be. Or estimate it, rather. Definitely takes a bit of getting used to. I'm not used to using either of these Wind Arcana, so... let's see if I can get there over the course of this run, shall we? Pinwheel for more wind damage. That is a very nice pickup. Also, Sturdy Wooden Easel to block abilities every now and then. It's like extra evasion, but it's not evasion. It's slightly better. I do like that a lot. Also, the Sidewinders is a lot of extra damage when using our basic. We are going to be fighting, lightning here at the end of this run. I'm not sure this ability can dash across pits. I'll try. It cannot. Okay, so let's do something like this. Bait out their attacks. Pull them in here. Oh, it's wind! What a coincidence! Thank you. Nothing in sight, really. Yikes. Una Storybook, that's not super useful this early on. Always gotta make sure to get rid of evasion. You could have potentially evaded there. I'm not sure how fast these are early on, as I am not very used to these abilities yet. I'm gonna get there. You just watch me. You just lay back and watch, alright? I'll do the work for you. It's gonna happen. I'm not promising anything, but it's likely to happen. Okay, let's get out of here. Easel is a must-buy. Extra evasion seems very handy when dealing with my absolute stupidity. Wow, everything is going quite quickly here. No health orbs yet though. No items either. Out of 2 chests? Really? I couldn't hit both of them. Should have just played it safe and used my dash instead to group them up first. Kill them all. Oh, I should not be doing that on a later stage. I can't really cancel out of the dash fast enough. Hello, Nox. Interesting purchases, very dangerous stuff in here, like the double trouble, like I said earlier. Wind damage does not count as base damage, right? So I don't think double trouble works with that. But I'm not sure how double trouble works, period. So, not sure I want to buy that. That is a very tough purchase here early on. And we're gonna be fighting Freya too. We're gonna be fighting 3 bosses that hit very quickly, that can get you stun locked very easily, and that are all not exactly easy to fight on a melee build. So I would much prefer not losing the run early on by picking up the double trouble. Instead, I might not pick up any of these. Jeremiah's lowers your crit chance by 25%, which is more than I can ever hope to achieve, as the Dark Katana just multiplies your base crit chance, and when this lowers my base crit chance to 0 or below 0, my crit chance is still 0. I'll say 1 or 3%, something like that. So, terrible pickup. I learned over the course of many different failed attempts. I really despise this item. I really want to make it work, but I feel like it is just too much. It should be minus 15 or minus 20%. 25 is unachievable in pretty much every single run I have ever played. This is incredibly rough and useless. Oversized Needle suffers from the opposite problem. It makes your crit chances go rampant all the way up there, but it completely eradicates all of your base damage, even when carrying items like a double trouble, which only doubles your base damage. It doesn't increase it. So again, same issue. If your base damage is plus 0%, this doesn't do anything about it, or much about it. And Oversized negates that, like tenfold as well. I'm not a fan of any of these items. I think I'll just pick up a Titans, even though it's too late now that I've enhanced my signature. Otherwise I could have, not my signature, my standard. I could have picked this up for cooldown reduction, though I don't care a lot about that. Not enough to warrant picking up a cursed item that I can't drop. So maybe it's just an anchor here. Damage and stuns are increased. Slightly increased damage though, I don't think that's worth either. Let's just fuck off. We got a decent damage up here with the pinwheel early on. That's gonna bring us a far distance into the foreseeable future. Oh wow. I am impressed by the signature charge generation so far. I'm also impressed that it does not destroy projectiles. Oh my god, we have a lot of rough prerequisites to work with here. I think I'm gonna get the... Oh, I can't, right? I don't have the money. Yikes, man. Maybe I should get this, because I feel like with the pinwheel, I could probably one-shot enemies with the rushing Typhoon. I'll try it. This might be the worst idea I've ever had. We shall see. Into evasion especially, this is so dangerous. So stupid. Don't do this at home. I'm just doing this because I feel like, thanks to the pinwheel, and having slightly more confidence from a slight increase in my ability to remain alive on being hit, I guess I'll just try it. Yeah, sure. Wait, oh god. Oh no. Don't lock me in. Alright, if every single ability I use kills the enemies that I use it on, this should be worth it. I really can't afford wasting any abilities. Oh my god, glass cannon. That is so much extra damage with the double trouble. I have to. I'm overcommitting immediately. Just throw a bone and I'll pick it. Oh boy. Kinda hate the fact that I can't dash across, but you guys can do that for me. That's kind of the fun part here. So go fuck yourselves, eh? Gotta be very wary of thieves. I see a single thief, I'm gonna jump the ship. Where the fuck did you come from, good sir? 60 air on that, that's not a lot. That is more than an explosive fireball, but it's really not a lot. That's not gonna scale very well. It might be good now, but I definitely will be needing extra damage to one-shot everything quite soon. Right, gotta hit the mage. Ooh, that tumble. It felt like playing soccer there. Alright. Ooh, damn. Sidewinders might have been a very good purchase with this one. Obviously, couldn't anticipate for the double trouble and all that crap. Back off slightly. Just kill them one by one. Through the corner. Oh my god, the crits! Remember, I said it. High base damage with a high crit chance is a huge damage increase. We are definitely very lucky so far in terms of damage dealt, but it might all turn south in a second. Woof. Just be rather careful, don't risk anything. I don't want to even know how much damage they deal to me per hit. Knockout boulder. I saw a knockout boulder in there. That's quite nice. I'm also looking for a bouncing surge, so I can deal with Sura a lot easier. Just get rid of the shadowy balls. Also hit an entire room, potentially killing everything in that room with one hit. Generally, wind abilities are going to be much more profitable than other elements here due to the pinwheel. It's just a matter of using the space you got and being a cocky asshole. Alright, alright. I love the fact that I can just keep it kicking like a ball. It just keeps going. It doesn't stop on the first enemy hit. It keeps flying towards other enemies. It could be a disadvantage, sure, but as of now, I feel like that's very helpful. I love the vitality scissors here. I don't think I can beat a run where my standard goes bye-bye though. Even with a very high base damage build, I don't think... let me rephrase that. I could absolutely beat her. I just wouldn't want to deal with that burden. So instead, let's not risk it for the biscuit, and instead just go for the safe pick with these special snowflake exploding things just that much faster. So rooms should now be an absolute joke. As soon as I can kill a single enemy, the entire room should explode. Granted, that only counts for rooms that don't spawn enemies in a wave. Kill. Cool. Almost back to full HP. It would still be decent. I can't possibly take the piggy. That would be super risky. I could take the prismatic, but how important is armor in here? I don't think it is important at all. I will pick up the scissors. One issue with them is, in my opinion, that revive items proc in the order that you pick them up. But this is not a cursed item. I can drop this. It doesn't get destroyed when I drop it either, meaning that I can restructure the order. I don't want this to ever go off first, because then I just lose all important abilities, aka everything except my basic, essentially, my dash, and my signature. Essentially, that means I lose everything except my signature, because in the late game, none of that matters. You really need signatures, and you really need extra standard abilities, aka extra signatures, or however you want to call them. To me, they're just extra signatures. Kill him! Okay. Just a little too aggressive. That's okay. Glacial Cross, that's another dash. Very similar to our standard. I do like that. It is very useless here because it tries to freeze enemies, and water elements can't be frozen. Or at least can only very briefly be frozen. Oh yeah. I thought there was a frozen enemy there, to be honest. I'm a bit of a dumb gnome. Now only the mother slimes, if you will, explode, meaning that you do want to kill them one at a time, not just the big ones first and then the small ones. But when is that ever possible? It's pretty damn hard. Look at that sweet, sweet damage. But also my HP bar. It's no joke. It's no laughing matter. Oh boy. Nothing interesting in here at all. I mean, cooldown reduction on my dash, cool, but I don't need that anymore. I don't really intend to kill enemies by pulling them into pits any longer. I just want to kill them with a single use of my ability. No thanks. Okay. Try and abuse the fact that this essentially kicks forth Tumbling Wind. Creeping Tendrils. Oh, wrong ability, wrong button, I suppose. I do like that. I don't think that's gonna be useful at all, especially in the Lightning Dungeon. It's a very short-range dash with a minute supportive damage ability. Okay, another book. Pinata, alright. That is much better. Shockwire, I believe it's called. Iron Spike. I was way off! Another knockout boulder, unenhanced though. It's super expensive, it costs a total of 250, because first I got a bite for 150, and then I gotta enhance it. Kill it. Don't let it lay any eggs. Oh, come on. Very cheeky chat room. Probably could have killed me there. Not entirely sure. If enemies do end up critting on me, that's a mimic. Want to avoid hitting it accidentally. Cool. That worked surprisingly well due to the evasion proc there. Thank fuck for that. But also, of course, due to our special snowflake. One of my favorite items in this game, in fact. I always say it is technically my favorite item in the game. Damage-related item, that is. My favorite common-related item would be the spice rack. Just so much cooldown reduction for such a low price. Usually I do run that as my starter link there. I don't even pay for that at all. Right, goodbye everybody. 96, still missing a room up here. Okay. Moving on. Nothing of interest in here except a third page of the library. Are you trying to make up for the past summoner runs where I only found like one book? Because you can't. I'm done with summoning. I don't think I'll play another summoner build ever again. No, I'm joking, of course. I believe there is one or two more that I haven't played yet. I did fuck up there against the knights. Very embarrassing, I will admit. I'm just gonna hope for that to never happen ever again. And so many books. I could get that. Just for funsies. Oh no. I really don't know. I don't think I will. Let's move on. Let's not be concerned with things like money or items or wealth, generally speaking. Just move on. Because health is much more important. The second we drop dead, the run is over, regardless of how rich we are. And money doesn't exactly keep you stay afloat. I love the Iron Spike upgrade with this. I think I rarely ever get this in runs. This, it just feels so goddamn good here. Insanely strong, I dare to say. Just use that instead of the dash, as that feels a lot safer. I don't have to move through enemies there, so no contact damage is dealt to me at any given point. No. No. Another dead end. Yeehaw! Great. Woo, that came in clutch. Perfect timing. Of course. Fully intentional. Oh, dude, it feels great. That is such a neat ability. Okay, Midas item. Ebon Wolves doesn't do much. We don't run neither Final Lightning a lot. Movement speed, oh boy. I'll just pick up the dagger as this is a decent damage increase for now. Roughly 13% damage increase times 2 due to the mask. Right, be prepared. Did the barrels have less HP or did I just kill them off with the Iron Spike accidentally? I have no clue. They probably have less HP too. No idea though. No idea how that barrel actually got destroyed. I rarely ever get to see that barrel destroyed when doing that room. I always use it as a rock to hide behind from those pesky cyclopses shooting at me with their hit scan lasers. God, I hate hit scan so much. Always want to abuse that barrel, rely on it like a bastion, so I won't take damage against those 3 bastards. Oh my god, the range too! Iron Spike coming in clutch in the water dungeon. Still missing plenty. I'm only on 63% Only at is what I meant to say. So. Starting to fumble words again. Alright, yeah, exactly. That's what I... that's what I meant. Starting to fumble words again. What did I say? I think I said... starting to fumble... word against. Oh, man. Brain power. It's all brain power. How are human beings even alive? How am I alive? So many questions. Really gotta try not to die here. I ought to not die here. That would be very embarrassing. Let's trade for the health early on. And we get prescription bottle. That's double healing potions in stock. Very terrible. Completely useless. Almost every time. Okay. Kick around the corner, just wait for them to group up, like so. And boom. Get these barrels while waiting on the lancers. Again, kick around the corner. And someone's a little early, huh? Can't wait. Can't wait to see me. How humbling. I shouldn't have moved there, just should have stood still so the knight would have been hit too. Nope, gotta cancel. No fumbling there. I did save it, so shush. 500 gold plus, so we maxed out the dagger 20%, aka 40%. Very nice. Nothing here, really. I do like Spiral Rumblers. I will get them here, even though this is a lot less damage due to the dagger now sinking back down to roughly 14.6% or roughly 15% if you prefer rounding that way. I like the Rumblers because they are essentially a substitute for not having phony bouncing surge. They do essentially hit an entire arena. So if Sura ever happens to cast the annoying ass spread shadow balls across the entire arena attack, I will at least be able to catch 2 or 3 off guard with this and not have to dodge as many lasers at a given time. Which I really fear that attack. That attack has cost many of my runs so far, especially when I got into the game, when I learned it. For the longest time, I despised that attack. And I still do, but I don't die to it as much as I used to, for some ungodly reason, for just getting good. Also, since it's of the earth element, it pierces enemies, it pierces doors, it does a great job at clearing rooms, at killing off elites, does fantastic damage. It essentially, how do I put this? Screws itself into enemies, and then doesn't come out until they're dead, or either they're dead or this thing expires. But with this damage, this huge level of damage that we have acquired so far, I believe the result should be clear. This should always kill on impact. Additionally, also kills the orbs. Additionally, it's of the earth element, so it's going to be strong in the lightning dungeon. For our last dungeon here, our last boss, should be very helpful, especially also with the Thunder Twin minions that I otherwise can't really dispose of. Yeah, I do like that a lot. Am I going to use it here, though? I think so, yeah. I think I prefer that over Glacial Cross. Just so I can hit her from afar, potentially finish her off while she's attacking me. Where am I? Okay. Bye-bye. Okay. Wind. That's very good. Now, I do intend to stack wind here, as much wind as possible, so I can resort to not using the pinwheel. I don't intend to use any other wind abilities. That would be laughable. Wind is so much worse than an ability as solid as the Iron Spike, for example. I'm starting to stutter here, trying to drag myself down a little bit in speed. I'm talking too quickly here for my brain right now. So I am trying to stack wind abilities. So if I do end up finding a Royal Flush, I get a slightly larger damage boost off of that. But I am still trying to keep a few different elements here. Currently it's only 3, with Earth, Lightning, and Wind. So if I do find a Captain's Ring, they equal each other out. So neither of them is gonna be full. I won't be having like 6 different elements here, or six times the same element. Instead, whichever of the two I potentially wind up finding, I can take either. So wind is the correct pick in my opinion. I don't think I'll be needing the Glacier Cross any longer either, though. I think I would prefer keeping that over the Iron Spike, even though the Iron Spike seems to be much stronger at room clear. So here's the reasoning again. Glacier Cross just means mobility. I don't typically like having 2 ranged abilities in here. I like having 1 extra mobility ability, usually a melee ability like Glacial Cross or a jump, and then 1 ranged ability so I can deal with stuff generally. Maybe for this run, I'm actually going to keep the Iron Spike though, as this just deals very high damage into Sura. I find that decision to be troublesome. I think I will keep the Iron Spike. It's just a gut feeling, but I will follow it. I'm going to swap them. I'm going to use the Iron Spike for melee range control, and the other ability, the Tunneling Drive or whatever the hell it may be called, I'm going to be using for ranged control and engaging with rooms that I can't otherwise access. Baiting enemies out of rooms, giving them stunlock, like so. Okay, maybe not. Like so. Just wait over here with the crowd control, cast this, get rid of all summons, and then finish them off. That's not the fanciest way of doing things, but it is a safe way. Not the smartest way either. Should have headed into the opposite corner. But by heading into a non-opposite corner of them, I buy slightly more time when summons inevitably run towards me. Then I can just walk into the opposite corner and then still finish them off from afar. At least that's my logic on that. Oh my god, I got stuck there with my dash on the corner. Shouldn't move so much, so enemies stay in the Iron Spike. Okay. I could move on here, though I do intend to potentially find a Mimic. That would be fantastic. An adorable Mimic would be a huge damage up from right now. Just do that. Use the ranged abilities. Abuse the fact that I found 2 incredibly strong Arcana here. Proc. Do this for the summoners. Sorry, the rangers. The summoners haven't even spawned yet. Do this for the summoners. Pull them in. I did get cancelled by a slime, and that's okay. Grab the gummy vitamins. They don't do anything. Woo! What was that damage? Holy crap. Oh, I mispositioned a Tunneling Drive. I was gonna hit both of them with a single... What are these actually called? A drill, I suppose? Yeah. Spiral Rumblers, it's not Tunneling Drive. Tunneling Drive happens to be the dash. I just happen to remember that name because these are basically the same abilities. So, yeah, I meant to hit both of them with a single drill, that also destroys projectiles, so both of them wouldn't have gotten the slightest bit of a chance for counterplay. Big fan of cancelling my abilities to stay alive. Ooh, boy. Using the tumbling because I feel like that's a decent crowd control. No, sorry, that's just wrong. Not exactly a crowd control, so just a control tool, period. So if I can hit a group of enemies with it, it's great. They won't be able to attack me. If I can use it to finish off a single enemy, a high priority target like a summoner right there, I will do it and then cancel out of it as soon as I have to. Alright? Cast this first as it goes through walls and then they blow up and kill each other. Sweet. It also goes through these walls in case you were curious. It looks a lot more impressive from the side because these are a lot thinner. Just stay right here and watch them blow up due to our enormous damage. No damage fall off yet. We got plenty of very strong upgrades here. Still no Arcana upgrades though. Yikes. You're just a toy. Get out of there. Come on. Kinda had to do that there as an emergency ability. Everything else would have been too slow. And a dash would have been too risky. Same here, just deal so much damage. Everything else is much slower and less safe than just quickly casting that ability. Also, the cooldown seems to be very low. Love the Khalees flowered item. That is another revive tool we can resort to using, and is definitely one that I will be using. It's incredibly powerful. Okay. Let's find Nox and get the hell out of here, shall we? Surely he's not gonna be down here somewhere. Rock the barrel. Hit this crap through the walls, and then just basic them down. We had quite a rough start, simply because I'm not used, or I wasn't used at the beginning of this adventure to these abilities. I've gotten accustomed to using them. I quite like them a lot in conjunction with one another. Yeah, sure, you might argue I'm not using the initial combo here a lot, but that's kind of part of the build. You don't just use the combo. It just helps you through the early game. And then you exchange these Arcana for much more powerful stuff. But they still deal just an absurd amount of damage. So, at the end of the day, I guess that doesn't really matter. The fact that we exchanged our core build. Gummy vitamins for the limited edition rope, so I won't be taking nearly as much damage. This is an absolutely awesome start-out relic, regardless of your build, but especially in a build like a build based on Abhorrent Cologne, taking 50% extra damage. So you can never take more than 35% damage here? Not percent, sorry, 35 damage here. That's the absolute maximum of damage that you can take per hit, which is great. The less HP you have, the more value this gains, I'd say. Very, very good, especially with the double trouble. So I won't be hit for 100 plus damage per hit. Oh, thank you! That's great! Very, very good. I just didn't want to start with this, as I feel like this is an obvious sort of... I don't know how to put it. It just gets rid of the disadvantage of this item. Not entirely, but pretty much negates it. And I feel like that's just too powerful. I feel like that's too boring and too bland. But now that we found it, I will gladly pick it up. I think this, in the end game, is justifiable. I don't think it's as huge of a deal at this point. Anyway, we pretty much one-shot any and everything. Hello. Thanks for the explosions. I got guarded there, though. Go fuck yourself. What, he's still alive? He is. He TP'd behind me. Oh, let's just seek Nox and get the hell out of here. Evasion. Hell yeah. Don't care about taking damage at this point, thanks to the limited edition rope. That just takes all of the pressure out of the sails, all of the winds out of the sails. Let's get rid of these. We don't care about those. We don't care about money, period, I'd say. We'll get rid of the gummy bears as well. Using the tumble there to cancel him. dissuade him from attacking us. Same here. So they will stay in the iron spike where they belong. Again, don't care about taking damage. Still no Arcana upgrades. Impressive. Rebounding Icicles could have been a decent camo piece. Only when enhanced. And it's quite expensive for what it does. Very tiny damage, that is. But it is quite a decent versatile tool to use for extending combos. Why even kill? Get into a corner. This is the... oh, never mind. It's the night version. Let's do this. Let's do that. Oh. I was gonna suggest getting into a corner because I thought it'd be the room that spawns waves of the small agile black guys. So we can just stand in the corner, press B, and watch them all explode. Grinded to ice. Or dust. Or water. What would they be grinded to? I suppose they are frozen alive and then grinded to... icicles? AKA water droplets? No clue. Don't really care. Can't say I give a shit. Let's sell the gummy vitamins. Anything else to sell? I don't think so. I'm not really keen of anything here. Okay, let's finish off the Thunder Twins, shall we? Let's go, mon chéri. We have to kill these Thunder Twins. Does this count as mass murder? No! Come on. Time to die. Bitches. No more incest in here. Get the fuck out of here. Earthstorm Agent. It's a little late now that I've sold all of the books. Would have been fantastic. But of course. Oh, I targeted that into the entirely wrong direction. Misdirection is just one of my many tricks. I don't remember the Penn and Teller sketch. One of the steps. I'm trying to refer to the cigarette ball technique, where Teller like plays around with objects, hides them, makes them hide and reappear. Cigarette, a ball, and whatever else, a ring, I believe, as well. Misdirection is one of the key concepts of magic, right? It's very fascinating. I don't remember anything else, to be honest, but it was very impressive to watch, very fun, very entertaining for sure. I love the guys. They're very entertaining, generally. I could get this, but what's the point? Get this as it deals damage. It's a damagey upgrade. And then, well, I guess I'll just get this for good measure. And then I will get the hell out of here. That's right. Let's fuck them up. Oh my god, the damage I just took. Don't look at my health bar. Lord almighty, I thought I would be the boss here. Apparently not. Okay, that's the float item. That's the scissors. And that's being stun-locked. Okay, we got close enough. We got way too cocky at the end there. But ultimately, it was a fun time. I don't need to win every run to feel confident in my ability to play this game. In fact, creativity is what I believe I'm good at, not necessarily playing the game. So, yeah, I know, self-coping mechanism, shush. Had a good time. Hope you did too. It's kind of rare to end things on this screen, but regardless, I hope you enjoyed today's run. I certainly did. I'm definitely not going to replay the Cologne build. It is just so risky. You are playing with fire every second you play. Oh man, I can't imagine playing this with a Venturer, for example, or Fall Robe, just less than 500 max HP. It's gotta be insane, with a double trouble additionally, and then glass cannon. The build that we had was already very powerful, but couldn't quite get there. Probably could have, had I not been such a massive idiot. Regardless, thank you very kindly for watching. Hope you had a good time. And you know how it is. Until next time, I wish you all a good morning, a good day, or a good night, wherever you are. Watch Penn and Teller. They are fantastic magicians. And until next time, bye-bye.